Alrighty. So, right off the bat, we have quite a bit to get into this week in terms of all the development we've had across the board. We're going to be going over some UI work. We're going to be talking about the structures, the wall builder, the gates, replication, and the progress on co-op this last week. Derek's work for the build menus. I mean, there's a lot to go through. So, we're going to try and go through it as quickly as possible so we can get on to the Q&A area of it. Right off the bat, I'm going to throw it right in Winter's direction, and I'm going to throw up some visual aids of what he's been working with for the UI. So, Winter, all you.
Yes, we've decided the game doesn't need a UI anymore. No. So, what have you got for me here? Yes. Okay. So, we've been really focusing. I've been focusing on the bottom right with the concept artist, who is awesome, by the way. So we wanted to, what's the word? Streamline what we already had, and essentially rebuild and fix up a lot of the things that people had issues with. You can see here an early version of having like a group. So don't worry about the bottom left. All right, it does look nice, but it's like ignore that for now. But on the bottom right, you can see a very early version of when you can select multiple units, and it'll give you a little overview. This is not final at all. All right, this is not where we want it to be when it's finished, but we wanted to just sort of get an idea of how many things we're going to fit and what information we need to put up on the screen. Right now, it's health, infection, and ammunition, but obviously it doesn't tell you what unit's selected. We want to get the symbols for the unit in there. I'm thinking, and again, this is all, we're still very much in the concept area. Like, we may switch it to like an icon and have colors for, they're just their general health with symbols. We're screwing around with it. All right. You can see in the bottom right, so it's split into sort of three, where you've got unit movement is the top row there. So move, stop, attack, patrol, and then a formations menu in the far right. Oh, you can zoom.
We're in the future.
That's excellent. Yeah. The second row is more like unit abilities themselves. Oh, sorry, not abilities, but like the functions of the unit. So the rules for what they're firing at, reload, a build menu. If you have a vehicle, obviously you'll have the engine or dismount buttons. Infantry will not have start engine buttons, I'm afraid. Maybe one day. And then the third row is for like actual abilities themselves, and most units will only have,
4.
We talked
it's really
about
4.
Not really.
More can have
Most units won't
passives,
have more.
but it's one of those things where like we've been going back and forth because this has been very, it's been very fluid in terms of like he goes and comes off with these designs, then we kind of go back and forth and we converse, and I go over concerns that I've had. I go over concerns people have mentioned in reviews on Steam or whatever. And keep in mind, like it's gonna be elements kind of coming in over time. Like there's not that many colors and that kind of balancing going on right now. And this is just one example amongst many in terms of like different things that he's just kind of building out. Like here, I'll bring up another one so they can get an idea of just how many variations you're working at. Where like that's like the box that he's kind of designing in terms of like the reusable one, where we put all the pertinent information into.
Yeah, this is the single unit selection.
Yeah.
And that's also our we're speaking of putting some color in. You can see the current version of what the infection bar will look like. It does look a little bit like candy at the moment, but so that was our first version with the infection bar, and also there'll be a hover menu when you hover over a weapon, so you can see just at a glance the basic information you need to know. Excuse me. And of course, my favorite, that little collapsible button on the right. So again, the group menu will have that as well. Because that was the big thing, right? It was really equal in terms of people who were like, give us more information on the screen. I don't even want to see what's happening in battles, all right? I just want spreadsheets. And then there was an equal amount of people who were like, there is too much shit on the screen. I don't want to see anything except
it's hard
the battles.
balancing
So,
it because you figure you get a good healthy feedback from both aisles, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna have to draw in the middle ground, and then I'm gonna have to give enough options so people can hide and get rid of the aspects that they don't want to see, and then when they do want to see it, they can bring it to the forefront. So yeah, no. It's gonna. I mean, it's going. It's very fluid in terms of basically the thing, the progress. Anything else you want to add to it?
Yeah, that was. Just that was one of the big things, was having a lot of collapsible, options for the UI. There was something that popped into my head, but I think I've lost it. Hotkeys. So, just as an example, like even if you popped this screen away, your hotkeys for the buttons, such as the flashlight or the suppressors, would still work. So when you learn those, you can still be efficient without having to pop up a bunch of menus. I think that's about all we've done so far. The rest of it's all very early. If you need me to talk about UI more, I can talk
you're
about
good.
our future
I don't want to
plans,
get too much into the nitty gritty because, you figure it's better to have the visual aids anyway. So what we'll do now is we'll segue into the building stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and close out all these windows, and I'm gonna load into the editor, and then I'm gonna bring up the test map, and I will show what we've been working on. So let me turn off multiplayer for right now so I can show that aspect because Derek's still working on these six areas. So one of the things that you guys would have noticed over the last couple of weeks that I put in the time to fix over the week was it was very sensitive when I would move the cursor around in terms of I couldn't even try and build a structure without the camera moving and fighting me. So I put some time in this week and I got rid of that stupid little oddity. And then the fun part, this was a huge piece of feedback we got over the years, was buildable gates. Because holy crap, did you guys basically want, basically having it to where you can place down these gates and essentially you can use them as snap points. And we added in some of the older legacy assets to double gates that were relegated to kind of the prehistoric age of our SDK that kind of has been sitting in a repo, essentially. So we went through and basically got those into the project, got them all situated, and then hooked it up with the engineer building system. So then that way, you can see, that's the new point system. I've been working on that over the week, is trying to get it to where it's very robust. It's hard to break in terms of these points that get generated. And then setting up performance systems that are asynchronously tasked and managed from different, basically when you create a gate, it registers that gate with the manager, and that manager is what does the 2D distance checks asynchronously to determine when should I open the gate based off of its settings. So if I put it on manual, it's just going to not open anymore. But if it's on auto, then it registers with the game state and it does a distance check to figure out, oh, I should open. And, if I turn it on manual, you can start to see it'll start to activate right around here. And boom, there it goes. And we made it to where it's totally configurable. These values are very surface level in terms of basically we need to get to the point of having a playtest with the wall builder before we can actually judge it and get a better sense of what we want to do with the system. And then here I'll show you some of the things. So hopefully it didn't break because there were a lot of changes that came in last night. Oh yeah, it's working. Oh, I was gonna have a heart attack there if it broke. So there is some bugs that were introduced because Derek was working on replication up to late last night for the wall builder. But you can see this is the wall builder, the newer version of it that I've been working on all week. And you can see the point generation that's occurring in real time. This is day and night. Oh, you guys saw last week. Holy crap, was last week terrible? If you go back and you watch the previous podcast, sometimes they'd go to the other side of a structure, they were and then it was just stupid. So you figure I spent a considerable amount of time with Derek and myself setting up a very comprehensive snapping system. With we both do a little team effort here to get it to where you guys can really unleash your creativity in terms of like how you're going to comprise and build these bases. So like you figure like there you go right there. I got a gate. Now I got a gate snapped onto another gate, and then you figure let's do gate inception. So now I can put this sandbag and let's snap some jersey dividers onto that wall, shall we? And then while we're at it, why don't we snap a sandbag right here? The wall is kind of fucking me here, but we're gonna snap those two on. But that's not all. I'm gonna tell these guys to come over and help. And when they arrive, they're automatically gonna go and help build the rest. So now they're gonna help. But now they're gonna see, there's another one. Oh, there's another one there. I gotta go help. So now they're going to go over and they're going to do the auto building that we talked about in the poll. That was that poll that we had a couple days ago where I was asking you guys, like, what do you guys think is a reasonable radius for them to auto detect and auto determine? I need to go help out Philip over there because he's still building and this is within my area of expertise to build. So assaults help assaults, engineers help engineers, but engineers will also help assaults because they're the hybrid unit that can build and help assist anyone basically. So we did that system, and then I can snap that on, and I can do this, and they're gonna do that. But then if I go over here and I grab these little guys and I build some barbed wire, cool, they'll do that. Then I'm going to grab these guys and let's get a base going. So we're going to do you. And again, you're going to notice some oddities with like some of the placement because like literally up to the 11th hour last night, myself and Derek were just going ham trying to get everything replicated and multiplayer supported. So I'll show that in a second. Because there are some parts that work in multiplayer, and then there are some parts that just don't work in multiplayer yet. You can snap that, yeah. So I could snap a wall onto a jersey divider if I really wanted to. I mean, it's whatever you guys want to do at the end of the day in terms of basically like building these bases. We just want to give you guys the options. And then it's up to you to figure out like what you want to do with it. And then having a very robust system. So then that way, like, you can just do what you need to do. So now they're going to run, they're going to do their thing, and you're not going to notice that bug you saw last Saturday, where they would like, let me go to the other side of the building and waste 20, 30, 40 seconds, basically. Spent a considerable amount of time working on their pathfinding and writing a system where that's the blue diamonds, or the spheres, where they're dynamically rating and invalidating points based off of perceived cost of time to travel to the location. So the idea is that if they fail an initial query, they'll immediately fall back on a redundancy system that will find one no matter what. Like it literally, like if it fails, like I think like 32 times, it's kind of a player problem because that means they've trapped it. There's no navigable space. Like they built your units into a wall or something. I don't know. So you can see this is the revamped wall builder over what I showed last week. There's still going to be some edge cases like this. I think that's unavoidable, so just be aware of that, where it's like the infected can't go through there. An operator theoretically could jump over that, but don't worry too much about that. I think that's going to be unavoidable to like completely eradicate, but just know that like if you connect two segments like that, little Timmy ain't getting through that. And then you can see I snapped the HESCO section off of that, or let's snap a double, and then let's do a single. But wait, there's more. Let's snap a jersey divider off of that. But I think I also want to put some jersey dividers right here. And then maybe I want to put one over here on this side. So yeah, that's the snapping system where everything's interchangeable. Everything you can snap off of it. And basically it's very adaptable. And we've added a lot of items into the system, and we spent a considerable amount of time bug checking and going back and forth and just kind of trying to make the building AI as robust and have as many redundancies in place as possible to eradicate some of the long-standing issues that we've gotten over the years in terms of bug reports. Because, I mean, I would like the system to be to the point where when it does fail, it's the player's fault. where it's like they just literally trap their units. So you can see that here. And then you can see a double gate here. I can click on it and I can manually open it. The gates aren't replicated yet. We got as far as replicating the base structures or replicating the wall builder to a certain degree, but then we had to go back on certain aspects of the wall builder because Derek was noticing that it was a little too slow. Because the problem is that when you're in a single player environment and you're placing walls, you don't have to send calls to the server, and the server has to come back and be like, yeah, you can create that wall. Go for it. Yeah, you can change that mesh. Go for it. The problem is saying that over the internet introduces latency. And it can make it to where when you're rotating or moving certain objects, it can seem very laggy and slow to other clients. So we were trying to figure out if we could do some kind of a client-side prediction for the wall builder, for the sandbag builder. So then that way the server could catch up later on. And then the client could go ahead and build the wall segments, do all of this, and other players would see it at their own pace. And it would be very efficient. But that was something that Derek was working on to kind of iron out the kinks. And that was one of the last things that basically we wrapped it on going into today. So let me see if I can open this gate. I'm sure there are still some bugs with the gates because you figure there are some issues I need to iron out with the gates where they understand they can move through them, as you saw. They update in real time, so if a gate invalidates and closes itself as someone's heading in that direction, they will dynamically path and repath and try and find a new location there. But I need to spend potentially another day or so going into Monday to iron out some kinks that I've noticed with the gate system. Right. Let me show you the upgrading system and the new Revel system. So if I apply damage to little Timmy here, let's cut it down by 50 health. All right, so now the wall is damaged by 50. And if I find an engineer, that's an assault, you don't count. And I click on it, they'll go over, and you saw that again. They pathfinded to a location that was efficient based off of their side of the wall. They'll come out and they'll do their welding tool and repair it like they normally would do in Legacy. This is not replicated yet. Going into this week, I'm going to be focusing on replicating the repairing, the destruction, the upgrading, fixing the wall builder for replication so it always is 100% accurate, and then determining how we're going to do client-side prediction for that to reduce latency of creating actors. So you can see they repaired it. So now I'm going to break it. All right, so now it's broken. And you can see that when it breaks, it goes down to 10 health, and then it deregisters itself from everyone, so no longer people can target it. And then if I want to click on it and do it again, they're going to take out their welding tools and they're going to repair it. And then it's going to slowly but surely creep its way back up. And then when it hits 100, the wall comes back to how it was before. Bada bing, bada boom. How you guys had originally for Legacy. So whenever they finish, I'll show you the next aspect. All right, so the wall's back in, groovy. Oh, this is the cool part, actually. I think I mapped it for this actor. Let me see. Yeah, okay. So if I destroy it, what Dimitri did, I don't think, no, this one doesn't have it mapped. I apologize. So let me find a tier 1 gate. These ones. So basically, he got some destroyed versions of the walls in for the gates. And then that way, we can take that in the future for having debris. We started the idea in Legacy where some of the what am I thinking of? Some of the factions would have walls and all that would be left over when they got killed. And the idea is to kind of be able to tell a story through environmental storytelling. It's something happened, everything just doesn't immediately delete itself and disappear. And then you can go back and you can clear it with a debris tool or whatnot, or you can just repair this and bring it back online if it's yours. So that's something that basically is built and baked in fundamentally to every structure. So long term, we could, if we get a lot more free time, more resources, we could go down the route of Age of Empires or having it to where when they destroy a barracks or a motor pool or a circ tent, there could be a destroyed version that stays there for a while that you could repair and bring back operational to save you money for bases that have been overran. Because one of the biggest things for me is having that environmental storytelling that's dynamic, but also the static element of it that you see inherently in level as you're just walking around from what's pre-placed by level designers and what you create and then what the AI create. So this is setting the foundation for us to go back into that point and build it in a more cleaner and more efficient way. So I like this. This is cool. And then where are my NGs? Are those my NGs? Those are assaults. Where has thou if gone? Are those my NGs? Ah, there you are. And I don't know why I told them to go that far away. And then they're going to come back over. They're going to bring it back online. It's going to repair. It's going to swap back to its other original mesh. And then the gates will come back online. So I'll demonstrate that. And then we'll move on to the next aspect.
See, what I like about the whole new wall building and all the gates and everything is you can now create a very interesting looking base where you can have like one section dedicated to recruitment, one section dedicated to vehicles, one section dedicated to evacuating civilians, and then one section for quarantining infected civilians.
And that was
the cages. And something else that I like is you can also have another section that is just for execution.
What the fuck? Oh my god! Okay, we're gonna get you the help you need.
If you run out of cages, we're
gonna get you the help you need, Derivar. Don't worry.
You can't evacuate the infected civilians, so you've got to get rid of them somehow.
Right this way.
You can see this is the perfect example of why people were insistent on me adding this for the better part of a year. I think I don't remember exactly when I first started hearing rummagings being able to build walls, but I know they were pretty They were keen on this. When I said on January 6th, 4th that we were going to rebuild the game, they were like, for the love of God, make it so I can build my fucking walls out of the wall builder and then snap walls to it after the fact. So this is perfect because then you could take these walls, and as we add on smaller, different, varying sizes of walls, then that way it allows you to kind of like have a little bit more like versatility there. So like you can figure I could take this tier 2 wall. I'm going to brutalize this, boys and girls. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. So it looks like there is a bug with their placement. So right now I'm pressing, I guess this is a bug that we introduced over the last couple of days, is rotating in place is not working. So I guess we'll have to look into that one. But okay, yeah, that'll work. I guess the idea across is that theoretically, if you had an area that was already fit, and I could solve it just by simply building the double gate tier 3 and then basically just adding a sandbag or a wall there. So when that's done, I'll just click on this, go there, go here, and then just fit it. See, that's a bug. Yeah, that's something that either myself or Derek broke when we were working on the replication, is that the system is not detecting how far the wall needs to be. So there's still some oddities. That's really bloody annoying. Yeah, that is really bloody annoying. So we're going to have to look into that going into Monday. And then, so you can see right there, I was able to snap it. If it hadn't broke, as I showed you now, then I could have been able to snap it exactly to the wall without the user frustration that's going to occur by this not being able to see, where your wall is going to bloody go. So now I'll put another one here. Oh yeah, it's definitely having some growing pains here because it wasn't doing this earlier in the week. Yeah, so I'll have to take a screenshot of it. I'll send this to Derek and we'll look at this on Monday. But you can see like right there, that shouldn't have happened. But I was able to salvage the situation, but we're going to look into that one. And then I'll show the other thing that I neglected to mention is that like I do this, and then I can also build walls while it's in hologram state, like in Legacy. Yeah, why is it doing that? It's some kind of weird bug. It just started to. It might it might only occur after you start building over a certain period of time. A certain bool or float or something isn't being reset. Not sure what that is. We'll have to look into that. And then you see this guy is trying to salvage his situation, but there's a bug here where the gate is not properly updating the navigation, I bet. Show. Navigate. Yeah. He was stuck, but he recovered. And that's what's important. Is that you figure he realized about human intervention, I'm broken. Oh my God, let me go and remove this task from my list and salvage the situation to go to another one. And then theoretically, by him going to that other one, he'll try the original one and fix the problem. But there's still a problem or a situation to be had there. Somehow he got into this red area and he didn't realize that he needed to go around. But he did recover. But I'm going to have to do some investigation into that because pathfinding can be a royal bitch when it comes to RTS games. When you start spawning in dynamic entities, the things that can occur that you didn't expect in gameplay. I swear. Okay, so I'll show the wall upgrading system, and we got another system in over the week, which was a double click to select. I know it's not revolutionary or groundbreaking by any means, but it's in the game now. As you expect in every other RTS game, it sets the standard of how you're supposed to do these things. So you figure that's in, it applies to everything, so I can click on the walls and it does all that. It works for the gates, so all the gates of similar type will do it. And then I'll do you one better. If I go over here and I upgrade it, now they're tier 1. Now they're tier 2. So they're upgraded and all that's working. We got the upgrade system in, and the upgrade system is kind of like the fundamentals or the basis of every upgrade in the entire game for everyone. Civilians, Circ, AI. If there's ever a state or a transitional system where a structure can change from one type to another, like the SOC, like the gates, the SOC and the gates are the closest ones I can draw a correlation to at this moment. But that would be a quick glance of like this system is, now that it's written, I can go and I can do the SOCs and I can implement their 3-tiered upgrade system and get all that situated going into this next week. Because one of the big things is like if I go over here and I upgrade these straight to tier, I'll go just 2. Like, there you go. Walls are upgraded. Oh, I forgot that one. I don't know why those didn't upgrade. Oh, that wasn't it. You know what? That was probably cut off by my screen. It only grabs within your screen. So if it wasn't rendered, it doesn't upgrade. So that's not user error. That's just, it wasn't on the screen. So, yeah, there's the basic system right there of upgrading. We got that in there. And this next week is going to be just a lot of running around just to kind of get everything situated. I have not tried upgrading a broken gate. I'm sure it's going to work, so I'm not even going to attempt it. It's just a waste of time. Yeah, game crashes.
Game crashes.
So and then I can upgrade my tier 3. Yeah, we added a double gate for every permutation of tier 1 through tier 3 for the double gates. So you get your double gates for every variation now coming into this rebuild. We don't have the manpower at this time to do it, but one thing that I'm looking into a long time is getting an infantry gate set, like Battle for Middle-earth 2, where you could have like a little like subsection here, like a quarter, where like this would be a gate and then that would be a wall, and that would be for infantry to come in and out. So you can have like little, like Metal Gear Phantom Pain. Everyone here, I'm sure, has played Metal Gear, like that kind of stuff. Where it's like the guards would come in and out, but it's like smaller and you can build them along your perimeter kind of deal. So that's something I'll look into, because now that we have this fundamental system in place, it can be adapted and changed pretty quickly. Because to do the structures, I had to write a door. Then I had to write a double door. Then I had to write that door system operating within the framework of the structure system, which is the extension of being a gate. So we have a very reusable, modular system that allows us to add single doors, double doors, and be able to put them wherever the hell we want in the game and replicate them. So there's that whole little spiel. I don't think there's anything else I need to show for building. Let me see. Was there anything else we snuck in? No, it was just the gates, the walls. And you guys have already seen every variation of the wall, so there's no reason to bore you guys with that dribble. I'm pretty sure I showed these previously, but for people that don't know, these are the 3 tiers of generators you're going to be getting in the rebuild, where basically it's small, medium, and large. And then, I'm running out of money. Money. Yeah, that's pretty much everything. Huh? What'd you say?
We've all been there.
Yeah.
We've all been
Oh,
there,
that's
running
what I
out of
can
money.
show. The recruitment system.
Yeah,
I
we've
can
all
show the
been there.
progress that Derek has had. Let me give myself Let me give myself $1 million. So what I'm gonna basically do. Yeah.
If only that was
So I know,
possible.
right? So I didn't want to do that. I gave them a cancel move order on accident. I was like being clumsy. So they're gonna build that, and then I'm so close to. It's funny. I'm so close. I'm so used to playing like Legacy Cepheus. I was about to place the generator down, and then I realized there was no prerequisite call to having a power in the subsystem or the area. So I was like, wait, why am I building a generator? There's no power requirement in the dev environment. So Anyway, when it drops, I'll show you the recruitment system that Derek worked on. I had to pull him towards the midpoint of the week because we had to tag team the structures. Because my God, wall builders are fucking complicated. Like the amount of math and snapping and things that can go wrong. I ended up having to pull him over, and we had to powwow and roll around the floor for a couple of days, just getting the wall builder to the level that you guys just saw now. So it was one of those things where it was constantly just back and forth, ironing out bugs and just hunting things down and figuring out where can we do things better and do it more efficiently, but at the same time get it paced for the co-op, because like this system, which I'll go into in a second, where it's like the sky crane. I did it for single player. I prototyped it. I concepted the idea of it, but then I had to go back and I had to clean it up and change it so that it would work in the confines of replication, which I'll show in a second, because I'll have to bring up a second client for that. But you can see, we got the preliminary system in for the weapons and the resurface value, the slots for the abilities, and all of this. And the secondary is not in yet. The recruiting amounts in. The group stuff is in. I'm broke, or is it just broken? I guess the UI is broken. So yeah.
You're
Am I?
You're at max population.
Where do you see that?
Yeah.
Oh, shut up.
In that menu.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, my presentation monitor is tiny, so I don't. Did Derek implement the population system, and I just didn't read his notes properly? Oh fuck, that's why. All of you must die. Oh, that
Tragedy.
If I had to guess,
Mass
those guys
casualty
aren't
of
properly replicated to remove themselves from the array, so it's not going to work in this map. So I have to go to the smaller map. So let me go to the top down and spawn in here and build it here. It's not going to be as pretty as it would be because the sky crane is literally going to spawn in a dev debug 000. Like it's literally just going to spawn right here. Watch. Yeah, it's just going to spawn at 00. If there's no carrier, it debug spawns for dev testing maps, and it's still going to act as if it spawned at the carrier. Because it's a preset routine. It's acting as if it's taken off from the carrier and everything's in local space and it's just doing its thing and whatnot. So now it's going to drop it, and I should be able to build my units here, because odds are that was something that Derek didn't have the time to test for before I pulled him off, is he got the population system replicated. Oh, wow. But then basically, yeah, so now it's working. Yeah, so when they die, it's not properly removing them from the replication system. So that's just something we haven't gotten to yet. And then you'll see when I recruit, they'll come on flight. And as you can see, we're slowly but surely just kind of getting everything in there, getting it all functional, and bringing it back up to what it was in Legacy, and then making improvements where necessary, where it's we have different underlying code of how we do something. You can see there's no garrison point. So that has to come in going into the next week. Or when I click on the structure, it keeps just ghost giving this guy an order for some reason. So it's these weird little bugs that we just gotta work out and just keep chipping away as we go over the next couple of weeks. So here's what Derivar was mentioning last week, and he was right, is that Michael did go in and add in a suite of new animations, where there's a free-falling state that they're in. It's basically a very generic idle. And then when they get to a certain elevation, they pull their chute, and you can see that little jolt that they do. It could use some work, but it's a move in the right direction. We got a little more polish there. But you can see, they do that, and they have a better land, and they pick up their gun, the parachute goes away like you guys are more accustomed to. So Derivar was correct when he mentioned that last week, is that they snuck that in there and didn't tell me. It's the crime of doing business with people that are so passion-thrilled, where they're just fuck it. We're going to do this again. We're going to do it better. So you figure I wasn't even told about that. That was just a surprise. They just kind of snuck in for last podcast. So I was like, oh, Derivar, I don't think that exists, bro. I think you're seeing shit. And then I saw it the next day on Monday, and I was like,
Yeah.
Oh, they did sneak that in there. Nobody asked for approval.
I know I wasn't
They just did it on their own
things.
fucking time and put it in there when nobody was looking. So I was like, oh, well, I can't really get mad at that because it looks good. But Yeah, no. So there's that. And now we'll move on to the fun part, which is showing off the replication aspects of the progress. So I'll switch to a listen server environment. And let me go ahead and put you. Oh no, come on, don't do that. Do that there. And then we're going to grab there. Oh, yeah, plot. Anyway, so if I go to the engineer and I click on the spotlight, you can see that it is replicated for both clients. That was something that I was very keen on. And we went back and forth over the week, and this took us quite a bit of time just to kind of get it working. Was having it to where, like, it's like Fallout and a bunch of other games, you can only ever see once you've placed it down. And if we're going for the level of sophistication and cooperative gameplay that we've envisioned, it was important to get this from the get-go, which is kind of why Derek is dedicating that time for client-side prediction for the walls, so we can make it to where if you're a client and you're placing down a wall, you don't have to wait for the server to give you the okay to spawn something. You can place it. It's like asking for forgiveness, where it's like you already did something, but you're going to ask for it later on. The server's going to come back and be like, whoa, what are you doing? That's cheating, kind of deal. So it's one of those things where we're kind of working on a system for that client-side prediction right now and just ironing out the kinks for it. And that's just kind of, the process of it. We got everything replicated. So, like, if I do this and I place it down, client 2 is going to see it build. They both get the build progress. The animation comes up, it deploys. All of this is not by default. You have to meticulously go in and determine what gets sent on a per case basis to everyone, the server, just the local. Like, think of it as like when you're playing a multiplayer game, every single person is basically in their own simulation, and it's the server's goal to basically try and keep everyone in sync, whether it be like the listen server or the person who started the server, but everyone has a copy of the world. And then they send requests to the server, and then the server tries to basically, you could do that, you can't do that, and it tries to enforce it and do anti-hacking and all the other stuff. But the idea is that you have to kind of go through and navigate RPCs or remote procedure calls to basically dictate we're going to send this to all clients, we're going to send this to only the server, and the server is going to automatically replicate these variables out, so on and so forth. So it was a lot of back and forth just to ensure everything was working correctly. And you can see that, the client can place stuff in. I go over to the host over here. If I can select someone save my goddamn life, I'll build something else. So I'll build we gotta go to the bigger map for that. It'll do this. So I'll go to the bigger map for the other thing, because I replicated that as well. I replicated the sky crane. So you can figure that that's all working. It's groovy. Now we'll jump over to the bigger map for the co-op test, and I'll demonstrate the sky crane being replicated. And then I'll give you an example of when something might work in one case, but it doesn't work out of the box for a multiplayer experience, because some things in the engine aren't replicated. Like cable components, they're not replicated reliably. So that's something I have to figure out in terms of what the hell is going on, because you have to do a different procedure for cable components for whatever reason when you're on a client, but when you're on the server, you can do it one way and it always works. So it's weird. So if I go and I build a barracks and I go over here and I move the camera up, you're going to see that progress bar is going to go. Any second now. Oh, did I get it? Oh, no, there it goes. Okay. All right, there it goes. It's spawned. Oh. Is that a desync? Okay, well, I guess that broke. Something that was changed last night must have broke it, but it was working previously. So, there it goes. Okay, so there's that was the net relevancy. So what that is basically that is the Unreal Engine trying to hyper optimize what doesn't get sent to clients based off of a square root of how far you're away from said object. And the engine does this by default, like in Fortnite and all that, so you don't have to get updates for clients that are across the world like in an MMO. So the idea is that once he got within a certain range of the camera, the engine automatically kicked on and was like, I should probably replicate that and bring it up to sync with everyone. So that's something that I'm going to have to debug and test and whatnot. Let me see if it happens reliably or it only happens every once in a while. So if I go over here and I move the camera. Let's test that theory and see if I was wrong. So if I spawn this, I wonder if the host has to be over there for the net relevancy to kick in, or is it related to just the client and its proximity to the spawning object? So there you can see there's a bug there where it course corrected, but we're going to see. Oh yeah, net relevancy. So I'm going to have to double it, if not triple it, because you think, well, actually, theoretically, it should probably just be to where it always spawns, because this is such a, well, no, because the map is so fucking large, so you can see this coming from like a mile away. So I'd probably have to turn the net relevancy much higher than what Unreal or Epic or Fortnite people would recommend, because it's instrumental to like the player knowing visually, oh, my helicopter is coming. Let me not panic that the game is fucking me, and then it magically appears, 5 seconds later. So yeah, I'll have to seriously tweak the net relevancy for that thing. But you can see that's an example of the replication system that's default that you have to tweak and optimize and do on a per case basis on every aspect of the game. So like that's fun. And then I'll show the next aspect. And I don't know if this is going to work properly. It might break, but we're going to do it anyway. So, I could spawn the spotlight. We already did that earlier. That's boring. So we'll do the walls. I think this is going to break. Everyone can see it, but the issue that we had was that Derek never, yeah, you can see right there, is that on the server, it's not properly replicating every piece. It should be replicating every piece, but it's broken, because that was one of the last things that Derek was working on last night that he's going to have to work on going into Monday, or rather starting up on Monday. So like if I do it over here, if I could properly goddamn click, yeah, you can see it's not replicating the pieces. And that was because we were working on that client side prediction, and we were trying to figure out the responsibility of duties in terms of how we want to do it and how we want to optimize it, so we don't have to send that many updates over the internet consistently as much. I can show that. So like if I build the ML tent, oh, actually, technically, you guys can't see it changes, but they're getting ML right now. If I go to F11, and then I search for ML, we see right there, resupplied BP Circ engineer. Go down, resupplied BP engineer Circ 0 and 2, which is their technical names in the editor, with 50 bullets. 50 bullets. It costs 50 bullets. And the remaining supply is now 320. So we added, with terminals here hiding. We're coming for you, terminal. And your goddamn bullshit strategy of just building 5 MRSs and parking them in your ammo depot, and then GG you win. Just drive a scout helicopter over the map. GG you win. Because like literally you get an infinite ammo with no cost. There's no skin in the game. So my solution to that was making it to where the ammo tents, well, on a per case individual, like we can configure cost, and we can have it to where essentially like the ammo tents and the medical tents incur a resupply cost when the supply hits 0. And then that way it's like, okay, can I afford to fire the MRS? You know what I mean? Like each shell is like 500 bullets, 1,000 bullets. We'll have to balance that, of course, when we get to the first playtest. But it's one of those things where it's like those are things that we're taking into consideration and building it from a fundamental standpoint. So like the barracks has this, but it has infinite supply. So you don't have to worry about it. But the ammo tent, the medical station, they have it. And that can be configured on a per case basis just by going here and going to the resupply component and being like, oh, we're going to give it 1,000 supply. We're going to make the resupply radius 1,000 UU. We're going to make it to where, hold on, let me pull this over. It can supply up to 50 people every time it loops. Health regen, it gives 25 health every time it ticks. And the infection healing amount. These two aren't relevant to this. This is just more so for modularity's sake. So if a modder wanted to make to where the resupply could do something, or because the resupply actors are for every type of currency, so eventually the resupply component would give you the ability for like gas when we add in vehicles again. So the idea would be is that like anyone can come in here and just change like, oh, this is allowed to resupply ammo, but maybe I want to make it to where it can resupply gas or medical supplies or current infection level, which is basically healing infection level. So it's one of those things where it's very modular, and then you can see as a requirement for requiring power that's baked into every structure from a fundamental standpoint. So then that way we can make it to where like, oh, okay, cool. Like we can make it to where these things have power requirements in the future for like very easily just by turning a bool on or off. And that was one of the major design goals that we did this time around, was to make sure that these systems are really easy to work with, they're easy to extend, and we can ship more varied, unique content quickly and efficiently. With like I gave you guys an example a couple weeks ago, is just putting in the wall gates that I showed you previously would have taken probably weeks. Weeks. Took me like a day. It took me a day to put all of them in. Took me another day to get all the upgrade systems in. And now that the core fundamentals, the core principle of how the upgrade system works will be for every unit, for every structure, to the beginning of time, at the end of time for the game's development. So the idea is it's very adaptable and it's very easy to work with and use across the board for different factions and Circ and civilians and blah, blah, blah. So it gives us the ability of, like, in the future, a modder, or we want to add the ability to make the barracks upgradable, you could. You know, we're not going to right now. We don't have any plans for it, but it's there. The system's there, and it's easy to build off of, as you saw. Because I put all that building upgrading stuff in the time from last week till now, everything I put in. So it's been a very busy week in terms of basically just kind of trying to get as much of the vanilla in, but at the same time doing it better. Let me see if I can check my notes. So I did that. Oh, that's one. Okay, let's show you guys that one. So if I go over here and I go to play standalone and I load in, I will show you guys how the new upgrade system works for taking damage. So if I build a tier, let's do a wall. So we're gonna do we'll do tier 1. That's kind of annoying. I'll have to talk to Derek about that one. We'll have to go back and forth. We'll tier 2, and then we're gonna build a tier 3, and I'll show you guys how it works. And then because I'm not testing in multiplayer, I don't have to worry about desync. I will go really fast. And you're seeing the new building sourcing location in action right now. So if I click on this wall and I apply 50% damage, and then I upgrade the wall, you'll see that when I click on it, it's at 100 damage, 100 health, sorry. And then if I do it again and I upgrade it to 2, the health didn't change between level tier 2 and tier 3. That's a clerical error on my side. But the idea would be is it stays at the percent of what it would be on the next upgrade. It does not reset the health. So if you were at 10% health remaining and then you upgrade, when you go to the next level, it'd be at the equivalent of 10% on tier 2, 10% on tier 3, 10% on tier 4, and so on and so forth. And that's generally the other system that I got in over the week, was basically setting up that. So like if I go over to you and we're going to damage you to 80% or 80% of your health. Well, actually, no. 80%. Fuck it. I'll do 170. So the wall is practically dead now. And then if I upgrade it to the highest one, you can see that it did the math again, and it determined it would be 30 health out of 200. And it generally tries to keep the health bar relative to where it was previously. So that way it's not exploitable or easy to cheat. And that was one of the other things I did over the course of the week, was getting that system baked in and set up. And it works for everything in terms of the upgrade system. Yeah, I showed that. Yeah, because the last thing that I can show, more trivial than anything, is that I can do the revel one more time, and I can show you guys basically something. That's the other thing, is he got some better destruction models, and so he just kind of spruced those up and modernized some of the debris assets that you see in the level. They don't have collision; they're just there for just designing. Because if I go to show navigation, you'll see that like the navigation just goes right through it. Like if I unlit it and I go through it, it doesn't have collision, so units can just walk right over it. Oh, I'm still in slow-mo. I'm sorry. So let me turn that off. And then, again, if I click on it, they'll do their thing. They'll source their locations. That guy is facing the wrong direction. He's a little bit special today. I'll have to look into why that bounds generation was wrong. But that's trivial, but I'll look into it nonetheless. So, yeah, there's that. And then, actually, they don't queue auto repairing yet. That's something that we're gonna. So the auto repairing, like we had in Legacy, is gonna come in a couple weeks when we get to the point of doing the combat AI, because it has to be baked in on the AI controller side of things, because it has to be deeply knit with their chain of control of combat and when to do it and when not to do it. So it's one of those things where like you're not going to see the auto vehicle repairing and the auto repairing of structures until we get closer to having like an actual combat test, so we can balance it out and make sure all the systems are flowing off of each other seamlessly. One of the other major design goals of why we did the snapping system as integrated as we did was making it to where in the future we could have walls or other things like gates or like security stuff or like towers that could snap off of walls. So this opens the door for basically having like a security camera or a sentry turret or a special guard turret or a tower that you could put on there. Because then we can snap whatever we want on that and then add on functionality to that underlying object with this system, and it's relatively very simple to do. So you can see.
I do admire this snap system. It's like tower defense times 1,000. It's going to be great. Someone in the chat asked me if you're still planning on having like walls that people can walk up on.
And that's literally, I'm still debating if I should prototype that now or wait a little bit longer, because the assets themselves will be a block out, and I really, really, really need to get a combat test going, because you figure the tier 4 battlements are kind of put on a wish list for right now, so I can try and get you guys a build as soon as possible. And we can get this stuff polished that you're seeing right now, because it's one of those things where like it's on the doctrine sheet, and that's going to be something that we're going to sneak in around the time that we do right before the vehicles or at the same time as the vehicles is when Dimitri has a little bit more free time, because he's running around like a chicken with head cut off right now, helping me, helping Michael, helping everyone to try and get like all of these assets modernized and making new variations where needed, because we had to make new variations to some of the walls so we didn't have to stretch and skew them like really crazily. So it was one of those things where like there are new variations of walls where it's like they're a half piece, a quarter piece, and all that. What were you gonna say, Derivar? I interrupted you.
I think we looked at different.
Yes, we did. We looked at Resident Evil quite a bit for that scene from the second movie. But it was one of those things where we gotta go.
Resident Evil was definitely one of the top things.
And it's just one of those things where it's like, I want to finish the wall builder. I want to get the gates perfect. I want to get everything. Everything here needs to be replicated and perfect in the next 24 to 48 work hours. So I'm going into Monday, Tuesday. We need to try and get all this replicated, working in multiplayer, and ready for our first playtest. And then at that point, Derek needs to go back and finish that weapon market that I just showed you guys earlier. I had to pull him off of that so we could tag team and collab this, because this took us a long time to get right. And then he has to do the wall build. Sorry, not wall builder. Technically, he has to do a couple more days of the wall builder with the replication and bug fixes like you saw earlier. And then it's the market. And then it's the population bugs. The population, making sure that's working so you can build units. We won't worry about power, because that doesn't really matter right now for the playtest we're going to be doing. And then at that point, we were going to go in and we were going to replicate a horde mode. And then it would be replicating the horde mode, which takes probably a day or so. And then setting that up on so it works on the horde test map that we have for RTS. And then we have to replicate the switch between RTS and TPS. That'll probably take a couple hours. And then at that point, we have to determine, do we want to replicate the abilities, or do we go ahead with our first internal playtest? So that's about roughly a week or so from now, depending on just how things go. Could be 2 weeks. But like you figure, we're trying to get to the point where we can have our first internal playtest of all the systems and mechanics you're seeing, so we can make adjustments and we can find issues on our side before you guys play it. And you're like, this guy Crane is a perfect example, where it's like, I want to catch those before you guys catch them, and we need to have a couple of playtests internally so we understand, like, oh, we can't have network relevancy settings that are like too economical for like objects that are hero objects like that could be flying thousands of feet away from you at any given time, because that's just a built-in engine optimization that we're going to have to tweak and adjust. So yeah, it's very like fluid, but I think you guys can see that we've been putting in the time and the effort to make this something that is not just the same thing again, but better. Where it's like, this right here is night and day, in my opinion, to Legacy. I don't think you can hold a candle to basically the amount of effort and love that we put into the system to make it to where it's what you guys wanted. Now, obviously, we didn't get like the little curving thing in, but that was not going to happen based off of our time constraints. But if this took this long, that would take probably 1 to 2 weeks minimum of just the complexity and the math involved. But it's something that's on our wish list for a long term, for having like a curving system like Jurassic World Evolution 2. But yeah. So I don't know, Durvar, what do you two think? What do you guys want to add to the conversation before we move on to the next topic?
It's just for me. I think everything as a whole is just really, really good. From what I've seen.
Yeah, because you jump in the public Discord and I'll stream it for you daily sometimes. I'm like, hey, Durvar, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? I bugged the shit out of him. I feel so bad for him. He'll be playing fucking Monster Hunter, and I'm like, hey, Durvar, can you look at this thing I just did 5 minutes ago? Poor bastard.
It's like I'll be sitting there, I'll be playing Monster Hunter, I'll be like,
yeah,
hey,
literally.
You
join the channel wanting to play a game, and I'm like, can't. I'll be here for 8 more hours. Come back in 8 hours.
And it was time
or better yet, you come back and I'm still working on it. So, but yeah,
like come back in a few more hours time. Comes back, he's out, he's done, he's close. Yeah, like a lot.
That's a problem. So that navigation is not aggressive enough. So we're going to have a system for dynamically invalidating points like this. Because this is just going to be an issue that's going to occur. Because like you have to generate a safe margin or a safe bounds. Otherwise, you can get objects when the structure is created where they'd get stuck inside of it. Like Age of Empires does this. Where it's like the navigation bounds that it generates is always larger than the objects. And then that way they can't get stuck inside of it. But then you get situations like this, where this wall is so pixel perfect to its dimensions that it needs to bleed out into these little things. So I'm going to take a note of this and send it over to Dimitri, because he's going to have to make the collision for the tier 3s larger, and then these need to be a little bit larger, where like the people don't, because right now a unit would try and walk into this barbed wire. If it's green, that means that a person doesn't understand. And because it has collision, you get that issue where he gets on that edge right there, and he slides against it, and then the system salvages it via the formation system to assign him a corrective order. But in cases like this, he does. It's even worse because he does that slide. Yeah, he does that slide, and that's because of an example of really poor collision in some cases. Sorry, I'm like doing game design as I'm doing a podcast. Sorry, boys and girls. Welcome to the show. So I need to basically write that down and take a time code of that for going over that on Monday, because I can't fix that. That's a technical artist thing. For the collision issue. Yeah.
The life of the developer.
I think. Yeah, I was stalling for him to join because he was a little bit busy there for a second there. But like you figure, that's everything I have for my section. So we can get into the different section, and then we can go into the questions. Yeah. So there is a box collision here, but maybe it's so complicated that the navigation is not. Huh. I'll have to look into that. I'll have to dig into that. So anyhow, let's move on to Alcatraz. You ready to present? Do I need to update again, or is it fully up to date as of an hour ago?
Should be up to date, but I would update.
I'll check, because I updated them over the podcast. Was supposed to start at 5. Yeah, there's no updates. Where do you want me to start? The dock?
Well, pretty much. I mean, I'm still working on the guardhouse. Just a little more detail left to go. I mean, I started with the ranger station, which also still has a little bit more to go. Mostly the bookstore, which isn't really a traversable building, so that's not going to be a big deal. Spent a lot of time on the ranger station and the guardhouse because you're going to be walking through those. I mean, well, they're going to allow you to walk through, like you see the walkway there. Needed to align some of the doors, even though you're not going to go in the doors. I wanted them to align with the walkway and look, functional. Guardhouse doesn't have any collisions, so be careful. You might fall off the floor. Yeah. I think the only thing I have left on that is the rest of the interior. I have some of it built. I just haven't imported it. So the walls are going to be in there next week.
I'm a wizard.
Definitely the collisions. The hull.
Oh
Watch
no, I'm a
it.
wizard,
You're
Harry.
gonna fall through.
I turned on ghost mode.
Okay, I guess not. All right, that's weird.
No clip from Half-Life 2.
Oh, all right.
Anyway, what?
Right on. Yeah, the only thing left on that is that wall on the entrance side where they have like that weird walkway towards the upper slope, and the ceiling inside the tunnel. How to keep looking at different references just to make sure I get that area right, because I know back in like the 80s, which is what Google has, there was like this weird room in the tunnel before, you know where the arcs are? They had this like weird room that I guess is now demolished now, and I saw that in the pictures that you have. So I changed that up a bit. And right after the guardhouse is just getting the rest of the buildings' facades put together, and then doing all the UV mapping, and spending some time looking for some foliage on the mega scans to see what I can throw into the officer gardens, and just keep going on the detail, because it's been slow going. Like I told you last week, I need to ramp up the job search on my end, because
Yes, I
I need to
like
find
I
a
said.
job. And it's been slow going, but it's coming along. Just getting the facades, getting the details in there,
It's looking gorgeous.
and
I love windows.
yeah, it's quite a task, but
Mm-hmm. People who don't
coming
know,
along.
we're self-funded. So
like that
people
wall
on the
right
team work
there,
day jobs.
I still
So we
Yeah, everyone in the chat, tell this man how amazing the work is. I want
Yeah, he
everyone
works-
just
he-
give a +1, please.
it's getting
don't say
there.
anything until
It's looking
done.
really good.
For me, it's like I would want to be further along, but it's like I have to split my time, and it sucks, and sometimes it pisses me off, because I'd rather be doing game design than wasting other. It's just how life is, You want to make a good game, sometimes you got to do it yourself without, especially when we don't have funding. We have to go along and do as much as we can, and deliver as much as we can with the time that we have. And I've been doing my best to push this further and further. I mean, the block out is the one part I really wanted to get done. So at least that way we have the infrastructure there. Everything's already set up, for anybody else to come in and start doing detail work. But at the moment, I'm the only guy doing all the detail work going forward.
Ideally,
so
when Dimitri finishes up what he's doing for
It's-
helping me
it's-
and Derek out, he has to do the turret conceptually, the new block out for us, and then at that point, he'll get to a point where he can help you, and he'll take over the main jailhouse from you. So that jailhouse is a Lampers.
Definitely go. That's going to be one of the main buildings you're going to be able to go into. So that's
Yeah,
going
but
to
that's
need a ton
that's
of work
his
as well.
expertise. You give that to him, he'll eat that up like fucking candy. So
But, I mean, I'm looking at the Alcatraz. I was thinking of doing like some more prop detail stuff, but it's like, no, I want to get these buildings out of the way so it could start looking more and more polished little by little. Like I need to get to that lighthouse that they have up there. About the only thing I've done in prop work in the last week was rearranging a bunch of the HESCO barriers in the base, because we had adjusted pivots on them, and it moved a lot of those around, so
Yeah.
everything looked like crap. There is still a batch of HESCO barriers right
yeah,
there.
I see him
that's out
right
of
now.
place, though.
Because so
Like this.
the context of what he's talking about
Yeah.
is I put some adjustments or some I requisitioned some edits to the base objects to make it so they were more efficient to snap to and snap from in programming. And they're the same base asset that we use in level design that we use for basically the wall builder. So it was one of those things where, like, when we did the change, it required him to move and do some delta adjustments. Excuse me. Yes.
Is there another change made? Because
Yeah.
there's a bunch of
down
them
over
that
there.
look moved around again.
It's
All right.
basically, that was the change because Dimitri changed it, and then Michael had to give him another edit because the pivots were a little bit. Oh, Michael changed it to Y forward when it should have been X forward, and that was a miscommunication or a mistake somewhere along the pipeline for how he was supposed to orient them. And then the UCX collision was bugged up, so he had to go back and basically tweak that. And Dimitri ended up coming back and being the person that finished it, because Michael was just there provisionally so we could do the programming and not have to wait because we really needed to get the wall builder situated in a timely fashion. So yeah, no, it's one of those things where they're done and they're finalized now, but it just kind of comes to the situation of like you have to have like a workflow or a standard of how every asset's put in and brought into the engine to ensure that they comply with like how you're going to use them in gameplay. That was one hell of a weird jump landing animation, but yeah, you can see like little small other details he's been hiding in. Like he put these here and those are there, and yeah. So you figure it's slow going, but this is the part in level design where it does appear to go slower because he's going in and he's kind of working out all the small detail and like cutting out the holes in the buildings and just kind of getting everything arranged and set up so then that way you can go back and you can appreciate it and find all the small nooks and the crannies and and then like everything kind of is looking at all the hundreds if not thousands of photos that we took or people online from YouTube and all the other fun stuff. So this is when it kind of slows down because the block out is the easy part. A block out takes a couple weeks, and then
that part. It's like probably the quickest part, and then just finalizing everything and getting textures and making sure walkways align. Like I did with that bridge right there. There was a few tweaks I needed to make like I still need to make some tweaks to that walkway right there as well. Because looking at reference. Well, I think it is right, actually. I already edited that part. Okay, so it should be fine. But yeah, this is like the slowest part of the level, especially when you've only got one person working on it. I mean, if we had like 2 or 3 people on this, we'd split up into like different zones and just take care of those zones and start knocking this out. But again, there's still a lot of the rails I need to put in. But right now, I'm focusing more on the buildings because that's going to be
it's the weenies.
Like one of the biggest parts.
It's the vistas. It's the points that people use as the visual indicators to figure out where they are. And like you figure, like he was talking about for mega scans to give some context to what he's saying, is that this grass texture, this wall texture, this rock texture, these are all placeholders. These are there to basically convey an idea, to convey a mood, and then what studios will do is they'll use a library of textures. Like the new Monster Hunter uses its textures from Mega Scans. Mandalorian uses their textures from Mega Scans. It's an industry standard at this point, and that's Speed Tree. So it's one of those things where you go onto like a repo where people have taken like 4K, 8K, 12K textures of like scans of levels or whatever, world objects, and then you basically take it and you make it tileable and you tweak it and you put it in your game for like rocks and grass and concrete and stuff like that. So when he's talking about like mega scans and just kind of adding in more detail, that's kind of like the next, that's like the icing on the cake. Or right now, he's kind of going in, he's baking in all the details of these buildings. He's kind of getting into like adding more like shape to them. And then as he goes from building to building to building to building, and then finally works his way up to the jailhouse, stops at the jailhouse, then he'd go back and use mega scans to change out the grass, paint grass, put in the final texture for the walkway, put in the final texture for the dirt, paint alphas. So like there are mixes of sediment and color variations and paint debris and garbage and all the small little things that kind of bring it together. Like these trees are just placeholders. Where like he'll either build it in Speed Tree or will buy a tree from like a pack and then spend a couple of days auditing it, cleaning it up, and optimizing it for like whatever tree makes sense that would be on that place. Because I mean, most trees that you see in games nowadays are from 99% of trees are from Speed Tree, where it's like, think of it as like a MMO character creator for trees, where you can just shit out trees from just painting them on a tablet, or doing it on like a just node-based generation of trees. It's really, really cool. Like some of the people that I met at ARC do that, where like they literally will just load up Speed Tree all day and they just make trees. And it's actually really cool. If you ever want to see like an aspect of game design that's really simple and like really straightforward to learn, you can try out like Character Creator or Speed Tree and just kind of get a sense of like what goes into it and like how these objects kind of come together that you see in like The Witcher and all these other games that have like heavy, densely populated forests like Ghost of Tsushima and all that.
Yeah, that guardhouse has been a pain in the ass too, because I've had to do a lot of adjustments
Yo,
to the
yeah,
landscape
because
and
that's the
building
fun
itself,
part.
just to get all the, like that little alleyway in the back right there that you're passing by, just to get it the right height so characters don't like hit their heads on those steps. Even though those steps are going to change, they don't really come down that far. And then aligning the steps at the bottom of that stairwell to that door right there that goes into the cannon emplacement and the mouth of that tunnel on this end. There's you don't want the stairs to overlap the window. It just looks dirty. So I kind of had to go back and forth between Blender and the setup in Unreal to kind of get it right, because I was having the stairs overlapping it, and I had to keep going back and forth to line it up properly so that they're not overlapping and clipping into one another. And I also had to lower the ground in that alleyway because the steps were just overlapping the door way too much. So I had to dial that back some, because it doesn't come out beyond the building. If you look at the real life Alcatraz, those steps coming down that alleyway don't go past the building that's next door. They kind of stop at that doorway, and then you have the mouth of the tunnel next to it. So there was some adjustments I had to make. I had a question for you actually, Rob. It's like, are we gonna have them go up into that? I think it's
No.
a cannon emplacement above that tunnel.
The only area that you
There's
can
like
go
a-
inside is
okay, cool.
yeah,
Alright, so
everything's
those are just gonna be
cosmetic,
cosmetic
everything's closed
windows.
off, everything's cordoned off. The only building you can go into just to make sure is this building right here. Everything else is purely just aesthetic. So yeah, it's one of those things where it's a very slow process of just kind of going through and vetting it and doing it, and it's gonna. I mean, I'd give it a couple more weeks, and then at that point, Dimitri will be able to come over and help, and then he'll be able to help bring this island over to fruition, so it's done. And then once you get this final approval and it's textured and it's lit and the water's put in, then you guys will move on to San Francisco North, and that actually buys us plenty of time to get the rest of the game in place, because you figure,
Yeah, the good thing is we've got, this is at the same stage that San Francisco North is at, pretty much. So it's like we're pretty much set up to just finish this off, and then we're at the same spot with San Francisco North, where it's mostly just like small details in the streets, like street lights, mailboxes, parking meters, all that. Well,
You
I
did
think
put
most of
those
the
in.
fences are already in for San Francisco, and I mean, yeah, all that has left too is just finalizing the buildings. And what I've been doing for Alcatraz is already kind of setting us up to finalize buildings for San Francisco, because I'm pretty much using the same system, the procedural building generator, and I've already also done some work setting up samples in the procedural buildings folder. If you look in there, or if you ever take the time to look in there, you'll see like some of the basic houses I've been setting up, even for other maps. Like, I mean, you've seen a lot of repetition of buildings in the game. So eventually I'm also going to go back and replace a lot of the other buildings we have in other levels, just so that we don't have too many of the same buildings repeating on maps and we have more variation. So a lot of work has been going into just improving how certain areas of the cities on our older maps look.
The foundation.
So that way we don't always have to, yeah. So we don't always have to like model one-offs. I mean, Alcatraz does have mostly one-offs. San Francisco has a few, like you're saying, the weenies, like there's the stadiums, there's the hospitals that are also like going to have to be one-offs. But, like the houses, that's probably going to be like the easiest things we have to do in San Francisco. I mean, I set that up pretty basic to where we have like a variation of houses ranging from 1 story to like 4 stories. So we can build like different kinds of apartment buildings, houses, and office buildings. It's only like the one-offs that are going to take a little more time, but thankfully a lot of the work I've done has been through Alcatraz. So yeah, I'm looking back on everything I've done so far. How did I even get that done with the amount of time I have? But I mean, from here on, it's just sucking it up and trying to get as much as possible done so we can expand this game and really get something for people to go crazy in. I mean, San Francisco is a huge map. I mean, that's gonna expand the size of our game world by like, I don't know,
Yeah,
maybe because it is way
Treasure
bigger
Island.
than
It's about 2 or 3 times bigger
Treasure
than that. Well,
Island.
if you
Way
put
bigger than
Angel
Angel
Island
Island.
and Treasure Island and all the current maps together, it's still 2 to 3 times bigger than that. Like landmass. I'm talking landmass. So like if we would have put them all into like a Pangea and you would have mashed them all together, it's bigger. And it's one of those things where we've showed it off in the past, so I won't show it again. You guys can go back to the previous podcast if you want to see what I'm talking about there. But it's one of those things where like how this plan, how this idea is cemented is that while they're working on this and they're building it up, they're buying us time from this new SDK, this new build to get all these other systems set up, like the building, like the structures, the replication for them, the unit recruitment, the market. And the idea is that by the time they're done with this, they can move over and take a chunk of San Francisco and make us a test map for pandemic mode. And then, we can have a clean transition is the idea. So ideally, like we're finishing up and we're getting to a point in the next couple of weeks where like we're getting to the close of the point of implementing pandemic. They'll go over, they'll make our test map. And then that would be the next phase of like testing for us. Is first testing on that co-op test map and then ramping up to a miniature version of pandemic and then eventually ramping up to the full San Francisco North. Because the idea is that we're not going to implement the old Treasure Island. So when everything's said and done, and like we're pushing to basically have everything playable, you're not gonna. The old map is gone. It doesn't exist. It's dead. It's buried. It's been burned and thrown into the fire. So essentially, the new map is what we showed previously on the announcements at the end of the 2024 wrap up, where it was basically Treasure Island, Angel Island, Alcatraz. The fictional island is deleted. Power Plant Island is deleted. And then it's San Francisco North with the Golden Gate and the Oakland Bay Bridge, just slicing and separating everything up, basically. And then the aircraft carrier to get around in early game with the Little Bird. So that's the idea that we're building towards with this first push, basically. So like, so when we finish up and they finish up for what we're doing, everyone's moving on to that next. I just want to frame this in terms of like how we're kind of setting everything up and getting it all situated, and that this map is like the central hub or like the staging ground for like launching all your pandemic and campaign missions and everything else. So now that we've gotten that little spiel out of the way, because I know some people like to ask that, is what are we building Alcatraz for? And it's also for the campaign. We're building the Alcatraz for the campaign. Okay, so then, and cutscenes. So it's one of those things where you figure, is there anything else you guys wanted to go over before we get into the Q&A section from YouTube and on the Discord?
I can't think of anything. You, Winter?
No, I thought nothing. I was like barely awake
Damn,
this
he
morning.
really
I was
must have
like,
hit that bar last night.
Did you hit the bar
or
or
did you
did
get
you
hit by
hit
the
the bar?
bars?
I mean,
Yeah.
Speaking
there
of
were
bars,
bottles of wine.
Wow.
I don't know where they went.
maybe a
What, did
beer.
you at least? Was it at least good? What you drank?
I woke up at the time the podcast is late because I was like 5 minutes late because I woke
Oh
up at
Lord!
the
You
time it was
never
supposed to
admit
start.
that. What
So
the
sorry,
fuck?
everyone.
You never
damn
admit
it.
this stuff, Winter.
Ah,
I do.
you guys are gonna drink.
I'm
you guys are gonna drive me to
accountable,
drink
okay?
sake.
Right? No, it was Robert's fault.
I already,
Yeah,
Sorry.
probably.
drink enough as it is.
Everything is
true.
all Robert's
It's all my
fault. If
fault.
anyone asks.
But anyhow, okay, let's segue into the questions. Let's see what we got, and then that way we can start to wrap it up. We'll take 30 minutes of questions, and then at that point we'll wrap it up exactly at 7:00 on the dot. So hit us with your burning questions on YouTube, on Discord. Let me check YouTube because I've seen people been talking there on and off. And I think I saw a question like an hour ago.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
so
give
Alpha
us the
Legion on
question.
YouTube asked, I was wondering if in the future, after all the stuff is done, could we get a way to get rid of civilian buildings for base building? I asked before, but not correctly. I know I get that question a lot, and it's one of those things where it's like, I don't have an answer for that yet, because you figure there's a couple of technical things that keep me up at night for implementing something like that just yet. because you figure if you're talking about civilian buildings, I'm assuming you're talking about skyscrapers. You're talking about like the static entities where like people are in, the population are in. And right now, if they're not empty, you just deleted 1,000 people or 500 people. But then there's also the ramifications of the navigation and everything else, and that some of the aspects of the navigation are baked into gameplay. So, and the maps and the H slots. So it's one of those things where it's a technical thing where it's like right now that's not possible based off of just how the game is built and how it's optimized from just the onset of development. Where like we bake the maps into an H slot, like in Fallout. Otherwise, your computer would blow up from the sheer amount of objects that you have to keep in your CPU to cache. So at the moment you move your camera away, it turns into an H slot, which is a conversion of like 100 actors, 50 actors, including the building, into one huge actor to keep your CPU calls low. And if you were to remove those, theoretically, Fortnite has a method for doing that, where if you destroy a wall or if you destroy a tree or a car, it does that. But I don't think it would work on the same scale based off of they use an RGB-based system of an alpha and masking. And we need to prototype that because for the cars, so we can make the cars more performant. But it's one of those things where like it's just that's not possible. It's not technically possible at this time. And if something does open up and it becomes possible, I'll let you guys know. Because I know I get that question quite a bit. Let's get another question. So what else do we got? Oh, thank you for the $10 on YouTube. That's greatly appreciated. Yeah, you gave me $10 for answering the question. You don't have to do that, but we really do appreciate it. Yeah, fucking legend, dude.
Legend.
I didn't expect that, but all right. All right. What else do we got for questions, boys and girls?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, we've. Got,
oh my god!
UI,
do you need a hug? Do you have a dog to go sit on your lap and lick you till you're sobered up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you need attention?
Oh my god.
Yeah, UI, Alcatraz, building system, multiplayer.
Normally, you're the orderly
questions
person.
about those things.
Yeah, I'm normally the.
You're supposed to balance each other out. It's it's like the two elements.
I was like, let's have a meeting last night, and then like woke up this morning like,
question.
I'm forgetting something.
So question. Alcatraz Island is looking amazing. Will we be able to host our own dedicated servers upon release? Can you expand on that? What do you mean by dedicated servers? Are you talking? This is something me and Durvar have talked about. Are you talking about like being able to host your like own pandemic infection environment, and when you leave the server, the world pauses, and when you join the server, it resumes, and it's kind of like a persistent simulation of San Francisco? Is that what you're asking? And then I'll answer Big Tuna's question while I wait. So Big Tuna's question is basically, are all these updates in real time, or will these not be in the game until you make a big update on it? None of the updates that I'm talking about are in the game. Everything is being built in this new code base, this new base framework for the game, so that we can support it accurately and correctly and have co-op on from the onset and do it correctly. So it's one of those things where it's like, it's going to be a staged release where in the next couple of weeks we'll have a playtest for like the bear aspect, excluding airstrikes and doctrines. And then we'll have another build that'll introduce abilities. And then we'll have another build that'll introduce the doctrines and the airstrikes and the passives. Then we'll have another build that introduces the ground vehicles, another build that does helicopters, another build that bug tests and polishes all that up. And then at that point, it's pandemic mode. So it's going to be like a sprint. We're going up a hill in terms of basically just kind of getting it into you guys' hands and layers, and in our hands and layers as we start to kind of get it to the point where we can play test reliably. So let me see if he answers the question. Is he still writing? I think he's still writing. He's still writing.
I think.
Next question.
He's still writing.
Yeah, Quibble.
Quibbleby's got a question.
Yeah, go.
Given that units English won't work for me today. Given that units won't have training time, how will experience work for them? What effects will
Excellent question.
possess and how far?
So right off the bat, one of the things that we I want to explain my thought process and why it was put in there originally and why we removed it. So it was put in there originally 2020, based off of the concept when the game was more smaller scale, and it was like 8 guys. Your max army size was 8 guys. I think it was like 8 plus 8. 8 guys on your away team, 8 guys on your defense team. And it was one of those things where as the game changed and evolved and developed, and we got feedback from people online, it was a legacy system that never really got removed and never got like it's in contest with every other aspect of the game. And when it comes down to the leveling system, it increases their health, it decreases their target acquisition time, and that was pretty much it. It does those 2 base stats right off the bat. And with the new details panel, it's going to show that. So it will be more obvious to the end user that the reason why you had a level 3 or level 4 or level 5 and they gained it, well, I don't think anyone actually trained a unit for 5 minutes. I hope they didn't. Or I think it was 5 to 15 to 20 minutes from those units. It just wasn't worth the time investment. You were better off just grabbing an assault and just farming them the old-fashioned way, taking them on a killing spree around the neighborhood. So it was one of those things where it was like, that makes more sense. And then having our new ability system have abilities that can increase XP, having it to where your operator could have an ability that increases XP passively. So then that way you can kind of build into this feedback loop of like that aspect of doing the leveling. And just we'll go from there, and we'll play test this, and we'll get y'all's feedback based off of when all that gets in. Because as it stands right now, the leveling system's in; it's not replicated until after the first couple of play tests. So it's in there. It's just waiting to the point where like it gets prioritized. It's not. It's on our to-do list for the first play test, or technically maybe a little bit after the first one. It's Let me see. Did he ever go back and finish his question? Oh, there. Yeah, I see it. So I was thinking of lines of, will our multiplayer sessions be hosted on the local machine of the host, or will we be able to set up a dedicated server client on an old PC in the basement? A persistent server might be kind of cool too. So on the case of a persistent server, I won't know until we first start our playtest. It'll be something that's going to be on my list of things to test and figure out, because listen servers and dedicated servers have different code bases, and they handle situations differently. So it's one of those things where, like, right now, you saw it, we're playtesting for listen server environments entirely. And it'll come, that's our priority, is like Rust. Not Rust, like the Forest, like, I can't think of another game, but like the Forest. So the idea is that, you host a server, your friends join, and the host leaves, everyone leaves. Or like Total War is a good example, where it's like a listen server environment. And we're targeting for that, and we're aiming for that. But if it changes, and we can do dedicated, and it makes sense, we'll do it. Because I've talked to Durvar about it, and I don't have an answer yet. It's something that we're thinking about, and I will have more details, and for at least another month or so.
Yeah, we're currently just thinking about. We're currently in the process.
Not even thinking. It's more so just waiting
to
to see what comes of it, because I have to first get everything. So I have to get it all playable in a listen server environment and get it perfect and get it perfected, and then I have to turn on dedicated server mode and see what kind of issues present themselves. What kind of, do we get issues? Does everything work perfectly? Is it only like 5 to 10% of code that just needs another branch? Oh, how to handle this in a server environment? Are we wasting resources on the server? Because right now, there's some code that assumes that if you have authority, it creates widgets and UI and visual elements that the server don't need. So then that bloats up and creates actors and spawn calls that don't need to exist in the confines of a dedicated server. Because when you're playing as a listen server, you're a host and you're a client. So you're a hybrid. So you have to do some things differently there than you would do in a client, that you do in a dedicated. So we'll come back to that. I'm not against it. I just need to see what it entails and does it make sense for the gameplay. So Dumb Brick on Discord asks, I was thinking on the lines of, will our multiplayer sessions... Oh, but I'm retarded. Seeing how walls will now stay when destroyed in a destroyed state, would we eventually see the same for vehicles or player-based buildings? Player-placed buildings. Yes. So I touched on that briefly before, and essentially the vehicles do it to a certain degree. They stay in the level for up to 5 minutes, and then they delete themselves for memory reasons. The vehicles are more feasible. The people, I have to figure out a way of doing it, like the new Starship Troopers Extermination, I think, does it. Where I think what they do is when their enemies die, they convert their skeletal meshes to static meshes, and then they instance them, and then they generalize and create husks of collisions for like body molds. And if you do that, you can make like 100, 200, 300 dead bodies, and they're cheap. Because static meshes are cheap. So I have to figure out the underlying technology behind that, and I have some ideas and some ways of doing that to make it to where the battles are like the level is more persistent, and maybe even making it to where you get to clean up. Like if you kill a shit ton of infected, they can actually block a road and they'll create collision or whatever. That would be kind of cool. But it's one of those things where it's like, but it's one of those things where it's like, it's not technically feasible based off of our work tasks or like our workload. Workload right now, and it's something I've seen other games do, like the Starship Troopers I mentioned, and it's something I want to look into long term. Ideally after we leave early access, as icing on the cake.
I can't wait to equip scientists with mops to clean the
It'd probably be
streets.
like a bulldozer or like the cleaning tool where you just pay or whatever. I don't know. It'll come down to, does it make sense? We got to play test it. We got to see if we can do it technically feasibly, and then iterate from there. What are you gonna say?
They have to use a plastic
I
spoon
hate
to.
you. Okay, let me check YouTube.
So YouTube, someone has Andrew Haydock said, and not a question, but keep up the great work.
We greatly appreciate that. You have no idea how much it matters just coming and talking to you guys and feeling the energy and talking to people on Discord and talking to people on Steam and just having a conversation of what they like and what they don't like. And that's invaluable at the end of the day. So like you figure, like I enjoy, it keeps us motivated. You know, and even if someone comes in and they're like, well, I don't like this, that's fine. Like, that's great. You told us. Now we know. Now it can inform our decisions in the future. There's no reason to come in heavy-handed like some people have recently on Steam. But it's one of those things where it's like, just tell us, be honest, be respectful. We don't give a shit. At the end of the day, we just want to make a fun and enjoyable game. That's what anyone ever wants to do that makes a game. So... I hope. So it's one. I know. We're not going to that right now, but we got burned. But no.
Yeah, but it takes a lot of pain too, man. We have to push through because that's what we want to do. Is make
and I think that
game.
comes down to it as well. We talked about this previously, Durvar, where it's like people don't realize that like during early access, like you're not like it's one of those things where like. We self-funded ourselves. We work day jobs as when so like when the game doesn't sell enough in a month, we don't pick up and leave and like, oh, let's abandon the game. Fuck this. Wow. We actually don't name games. I don't need the drama. Generalize it.
No. I'm saying I've seen firsthand just how dedicated this team is.
I don't want to be a stripper for the rest of my life. Let's just put it that way.
Oh my!
He doesn't want to be a paid
out my head.
Get out of there, friend. Yeah.
So,
but yeah, but I have seen. I have seen firsthand just how dedicated this team is, and they very much deserve all the praise that they.
It's one of those things where it's like. I don't think much of it because it's the expectation of putting a game out there is that you need to fulfill on it and you need to be transparent and you need to basically communicate. Because I'm tired of that shit where other developers don't. You don't know what the fuck they're thinking and what they're doing and when they're going to release something. That pisses me the fuck off. So that was one of the key principles of doing this game is that we're going to tell you when it's working. We're going to tell you when it's not working. You know, you're going to get the full story and you're going to have to deal with it kind of deal. Because you figure like, at least there you can have a conversation, you can have a dialogue. And you can at least see where we're coming from and I can see where you're coming from. And hopefully we can find middle ground, some kind of way to move forward. You know, where it's like some of the best mechanics in the game came from that meeting of ideas from the community and our preconceived ideas of like what we wanted the game to be. And like I mentioned, if you look up 2020, you look at how the game was 5 years ago, holy shit. It's a completely different game now. So completely different genre, different gameplay, different loop, everything. Like it changed for the better. It evolved. And it's one of those things where it's like it's only getting better, as you guys can see by us putting in the time and the effort and talking to you guys and seeing what you guys like and what you don't like. So let's see what we got on YouTube because I see some people talking. Let's see. Oh, he's SM the Gamer 1 is basically confirming what I'm saying, where that Starship Troopers game has a very good body piling system, and it gets to the point where bodies form hills. That's fucking cool. I saw that in a YouTube release for that game, and I was like, I have to figure out technology-wise how to do that in our game. Like that's like on the back of my bucket list. You bought it, but like it wasn't running well on your computer, remember? Oh
No,
yeah,
I
we
gotta
gotta
get
play
it
that
to
for
you so we
co-op
can play
because
one
like you
day.
figure I like to buy games and play it for co-op. What was the game that we bought recently for research? Was it Halo Wars 2? Yeah, I bought it for
Yeah, Halo Wars 2.
me and Chris because we were playing that for the co-op, and then we were playing something else recently for co-op, wasn't it? What was the other? Oh, Age of Empires 5. But you don't like that game, so you don't count. But we've also been feeding on Soulstorm, Dawn of War,
No.
the original OG. Oh yeah, we got you. We tortured Winter on a comm stop, and he was just like talking to his girlfriend in the background. Where we're just like destroying people. Like he just goes autopilot clerical, where he's like, "Okay, I'm just gonna go in the corner and play as the Imperial Guard," and then me and I'm playing as the Necrons. No. Who was I playing as? No, I was playing as a Space Marine, and then Derivar was playing as the Imperial Guard. And literally, it was fun. Like we've been playing a shit ton of RTS games as well recently. Oh yeah, no, I fucking love the little drop soldiers. Oh my god, I'm so terrible at the names for Dawn of War, but I've played that game for years. Fuck you.
Little drop
Yeah,
soldiers.
but yeah, no, like it's funny because like Dawn of War Soulstorm is my jam, but I can't tell you a character's name, but I can tell you what they do and which ones to use in every case. Like I don't know what it is. What?
Tactical Marines with the jump.
The Assault
with jump
Marines.
packs.
That's their fucking name. The Assault Marines. Yeah, those guys are so
Assault
good.
Marines.
I love them. But let's see what we got on YouTube. I'm just kind of getting the conversation going while we wait for more questions. Let's see. What do we got here? Question. I noticed that when you drop snipers on the roofs, they don't always acquire a target. Are rooftop defenses going to be a thing, or should I avoid that? So, good question. Basically, how that works right now is it's not like putting a unit on a rooftop is like a traditional garrison system, like in Company of Heroes, where they can fire and shoot in any direction. It's more based off of line of sight. So if it looks like the building is not going to facilitate the area that you're trying to assert protection in, it's not going to. Like if you put your camera there and you physically can't see something, that building probably isn't going to work out. And it's more so just, I guess it's more so balanced so you can't shoot through the building that you're standing on. Because in traditional RTS games, they typically move from window to window, or they'll shoot through the building that they're on. And the building just turns off its collision for their bullets so they can shoot people. Right now, there's no plans to change that outside of... it's more of a safe refuge from hiding from the infected. And when you do have line of sight, you can use it to, like, you know, lock down certain streets in certain areas. I don't really have much for plans outside of that, but let me think about that. But like, you figure as it stands right now, it's going to stay the way it is because that's how it was planned, at least. Let's see. Next question.
I can't.
Oh yeah,
wait to
no,
co-op in
literally,
this game.
Michael fucking loves to
Yeah,
troll me.
why?
He's like, "Hey, let's go play a co-op game," and I'm like, "What? Let's go play Cepheus." Fuck you, Michael. Fuck you.
I can
Yeah.
hide behind better
Well, I'm
players.
not going to. I don't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
I get smoked in our own game, dude. Let's
I'm
just
the
put it
only
that
one
way.
that can just wreck everyone. I'll say Michael can wreck. Derek can wreck. It's always the programmers that can wreck.
I used to watch your playthroughs Rob, I
Sir,
wouldn't say it go as far as
Sir,
saying you wrecked. 'cause
I
I've
was
watched
playing it
you
from
get
a
hit
fuck
on
you. I was
several
playing it from a
times.
standpoint of
This is
evaluating for
blatant
bugs and
slander.
performance. When I would stream the game and I wasn't playing it seriously, I
Yeah.
was playing it just to break it or just to like just to sit there and just see how the infection spreading was working. Like when I play it and I actually play it, I could beat it in less than 30 to 40 minutes because I know all the exploits. I just don't do that because it's pointless and boring.
I just play.
Yeah,
base
well, you
design.
get to play Barbie Land base design with a new update. Hello Kitty Island
Hello Kitty
Adventures,
Island
Build
Adventures,
Adventures.
Design our base.
Because like you think about it,
Kitty
right?
Island
Is that when
Adventures.
everything's said and done and you have it all baked in there, you can have someone in there just sitting in there just designing bases, while the other 2 or 3 players are just doing military or one's. Oh Lord!
Come home
Packing
safe.
a sandwich when they leave the base.
Sometimes
Lord,
makes me
I'm
thought, yeah,
crazy, so I'd probably be playing that in the operator half the time.
I will have to say it's just like, hey Robert, where are you at the moment? In the city. Target
This fucker
acquired.
loves to team kill me in every game I play.
Don't mind
You know
me,
what,
don't mind
Winter?
me
You're
FAQing
next time we
your
play, we're
location.
playing with the base apart, and you're in the center. So when he friendly fires, maybe he'll friendly fire you on accident 'cause he thought it was me.
It's like,
Oh
I'm just
no,
like-
I won't.
I'm
I
just
will
like,
make
where
sure.
I'm so glad you
coming
can't
from? You're like, no,
fucking
no,
team
it's
kill me in
weird.
Monster Hunter.
Hey, I have tried. I have tried
Thank
staggering
God they
you. I don't
avoid
know
your
how
hits.
many times
Yeah, I know.
for the monster
God
gets a
damn
hit
it.
on you.
Oh, YouTube has a lot of questions. Hold on.
Oh, God dang. But like,
Oh, he's
what have we
talking
got?
about
8
Ultimate
minutes
Battle
left.
Simulator. I'll have to look into that.
That's a really good one.
So Car
love
L
Ultimate
asks,
Battle
any
Simulator.
plans on having infantry moving with their weapons in the low ready position when not firing instead of weapons up? In the... Really? That shouldn't be happening. They have a relaxed state for that. So what? Oh, Airtaker asked this question, so I'll get to you in a second. But they have a relaxed state where if they haven't shot their gun in 5 seconds, it puts the gun down. And as it stands right now, it does that right. Hold on. It does this basically. So when I spawn in as the operator, like it does that when they shoot, and it does that when they're not shooting. Like it's a default for RTS for every unit where it's like a 5 second delay where it swaps them over. That's a legacy too. So could you expand on that question a little bit more so I get a little more context? Because my understanding is they already do that. They should do that already with our normal RTS units, but they do it based off of like a 5 second grace period since last time they shot their weapon. Are you saying they don't do that? Is it only certain units or is it all of them? And then while you come up with that question, did you say there was a question? Oh, right. Someone asked raised their hand. Let me get him while Carl is typing his answer. Because Air Tanker raised his hand and we never get voice questions anymore. It's like they're afraid of us.
Like, 8 and
They're
Air
scared.
Tanker, I invited you to speak if...
We're scary.
I gotcha. No, I just got just an idea to throw out. You know, currently as we speak, the buildings are like
Yeah.
always inhabited by civilians. Like that. Couldn't we add a system where you can actually recondition the building? So instead of like evacuating the civilians to those buildings, you could change it to like a barracks or a civilian administration zone, or just like a civilian like storage area, I guess you could call it.
I know what you're talking about.
It's similar to infection zone. So instead of like abandoning the building, you can instead repurpose it for either a civilian administration zone. You can put your HQ there. Just
So
Just
when
an idea
you
I wanted to throw out.
so is your intentionality there just making it to where if you go into a new zone, you just want to be able to like assert control over it without having to build? Like let's say for instance you find like a nice square of buildings and you want to like have like a civilian administration here and maybe turn that into a barracks, turn that one into a hospital. I guess that my middle ground would be is that would it not be better to just basically wait until we push the idea of strategic resources and just have those structures do stuff like what you're talking about, but they're more situational of like that's a gun store, that's a police station, that's a hospital, and you can take those over, and they give you some kind of value in gameplay over like every individual structure. Because I don't know how well a skyscraper would work for like a you know what I mean, like the distinction of when to do it and when not to do it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, it's something like your second idea basically. So if you take over police station,
Like
it gives you
ammo.
resources.
Like if you go to a police station, it would give
Or
you
the-
like ammo, and there'd be like a cache there, and maybe you can recruit police. I don't know. And then like for or like
yeah, something like that.
a hospital or like a clinic or like whatever would allow you to do like healing. So that was the idea we wanted to do long term, is have strategic resources, because that's something Dimitri's been pushing for years, is for us to find the time to add in about, I think it was like 30 locations in the entire map, and the airfields were supposed to be the first ones for doctrines to set up the foundation. Do you think that's a good compromise?
Gotcha.
Or can you think of, okay,
That's a good compromise. I mean, if you really want to get a good feel for the idea I'm pushing out, it's just play the infection-free zone. It's like an early access game that came out.
Durvar,
and
you played
kinda
that
get the
game.
gist of what I was talking about.
Which game?
That is a good game. Because we got 4
Can
minutes.
you guys give me a quick drive-by of like how that,
Jesus,
like you guys have played that
Yeah,
game.
you
What's
can-
your guys' interpretation of what you're saying? Infection-free zone.
Which game?
Infected Zone.
Infection free zone.
How you can
Pick
like
buildings
take
and
the
turn
existing
them to
buildings and
fit your
and-
needs, and how that would apply to Cepheus.
Honestly,
It's something to look at.
I
think it's
feel
something to
you.
look at.
Yeah, I feel it's something to look at, but really for infection free zone, it works because you're not a military in infection free zone. You are a survivor camp. Your whole role is to expand and build as
Like
you
The Walking
grow
Dead.
with people. Yeah, so I'm not sure. It might be something to look into, but yeah, I'm not entirely sure how that works because Cirque is a military, not
Because they have
Yeah,
a.
if I
not a
can,
survivor camp.
we're
I
about to run out of
hey,
time.
if the building's
I-
infected anyway, you could just
So
erase
so
this
like
oxygen
that,
from
and
it.
what Air Tanker was saying is relevant. Where it's like that's one of the things where like the purge and the and the other one
Yeah.
came from, and I feel like that needs to be like expanded on potentially with like I don't know, that's something I'm gonna be looking at when we get to Pandemic Light. Is that I want to sit down in one of these podcasts when we like right before we like start implementing and like get a tally of what people like, what they don't like about like the interaction with buildings, and then implement that. Like same thing with the wall builder. Well, we had like a week before where we started it, where I asked questions, I did a ping, and then I took that into consideration when I implement it. So that's something that I can look into, but I don't think it's like I don't think that it's like doable at this time outside of strategic resources. But let me think it over.
I think it's a good idea. It's a good idea. It's a good
Yeah, no
idea
doubt
that,
about
that
it.
Yeah.
Lawrence
Yeah.
looking into.
Let me pop Air Taker down. But yeah, no, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, let me drill on that one. And then hold on. Okay, Alpha Legion gave us another $10 on YouTube. Calm down.
Can I rapid fire? Can I rapid fire off some questions just because we're about to run out of time?
Legend.
We appreciate it. Okay, so let me see. We gotta wind down a couple more questions. Let's see what we got here. Andrew Hylock asks, are there any plans to allow a player to be in the zombie commander and multiplayer RTS style? So, as it stands right now, all of our resources are going into the co-op and getting everything as it stands right now reconstituted, getting the campaign out after that, and then doing the operators mode. And then at that point, that's the release of 1.0 for early access. Anything beyond that, like playing as the infected, Fenrir, or stretch goals, things that we're looking at, we don't have a timeline, because doing the co-op and doing the circ will give us an idea of how much headroom and how much leeway we have to work within for the box that we've established, and what we need to hyper optimize or work to kind of clean up a little bit more. So like, we'll do circ, we'll do the co-op, and then we'll figure out like if we were to do infected, how would we do it? And could we make versus? Is versus not technically possible based off X, Y, and Z? Okay, is the compromise just doing infected and having it to where you just play as them versus the circ, and then you play as Fenrir versus everyone? So it's one of those things where it's like we're looking at all these things long term. The infected are playable from a standpoint of being able to give them orders and whatnot if you assign yourself on the infected team. It's just more so like a resources thing. where it's like something that we don't want to bite off more than we can chew. So it's something we're looking at longevity wise to look into, but we're not giving any definite answers just yet. Is there any other questions that are hard? Anything else you guys want to throw in before we wrap it up the podcast, boys?
I'm just answering a few quick ones in
Is
the
there anything
chat.
that's
Do you
really,
want me
really
to
hard?
read them out as I go? It's not
Damn
really
it.
hard. They're just like short questions that I'm answering in like a second or two. So I'm just like, I'll rattle them off. Big Rooney was sad that the EO tech wasn't on the Scar. I said, operators will be able to customize your weapons. You can make them look pretty as you like. Riftfall said, will we expect story screens in the open world? I said there'll be narrative, like you'll be able to look in game and see where cool things have happened, but like there won't be
talking
like a
about the main
cutscene
menu?
or anything that pops up. No, he's like when you're like you know when there's like the police
Yeah.
cars and stuff around in game, and you can like zoom in
Yeah.
and see that there's been like a crash or something. So he was like asking if there's going to be, you click on it and like a little zoom in pops up and there's like some art or something. But
Yeah.
it's just the world
mean,
storytelling. Rather than, don't worry, I don't
1.4
think there'll be anything more
for the
than that.
campaign is planned for Pierce and Natalie, and whatever we don't do with the rebuild, the reconstitution with like pandemic would be put into them for dynamic civilian groups, because you figure I know that there is a demand for more nuance to them of being able to issue them orders. They can give you orders, and having more of the role play aspect of the police and the paramedics and the firefighters working as a group, and then the anarchists working as another group in opposition to them. Like it's kind of like the GLA versus like the British is a good example, because I see Pierce is more like the British from Company Heroes 1, and I see Natalie is more like the GLA from like Command and Conquer 0 Hour, where one's more cloak and dagger and one's more like persistent, visible, but they move around constantly and they're more nomadic. So it's one of those things where, because like the cars and the movements and all that stuff, but it's one of those things where it's like those are things we're looking into long term. Is there anything else you want to throw in the ring for questions?
Actually, there was one good one. Quilby asked, will operators, once they reach 0 health, be immediately dead, or is there going to be like a COD Zombies revive when, like, if you've got your buddies and your pal dies, will be able?
Am I
Can you like go
hallucinating
and pull him back up,
this?
or will he just
Or
be
did
dead?
did we have this question a couple weeks ago?
I'm
I
not
feel
sure.
like we had this question a couple of weeks
I'm going to
ago.
answer it the same way I answered it previously. Oh, it was Terminal. That's who it was. It was her. So it's always her. Is that basically she was talking about it in announcements in general chat, and then stirring up a conversation on Discord where it was basically like the time to kill in our game is so hit or miss. And there are situations where you bring enough DPS and you don't lose anyone. And then there are situations where you don't bring enough DPS and everyone dies. And there's no middle ground. There's no like opportunities really where you can retreat or regroup or whatever. It's over in a heartbeat. And she was suggesting having a percent-based drop system where units could, when they die, could basically like Call of Duty Last Stand, and they just be non-combatants. Then you could have the medics come and heal and pick them up. But then she was also suggesting that for the operators, I believe. So it's something that we are looking at and determining if we should do it, when we should do it. Because I like the idea for a drop system, but I still need to meet with I need to meet with Derek, and I need to meet with Michael. Michael from the animation department, and then Derek for the programming side, and figure out like, can we do it? What kind of obstacles are we going to look into, and how would we do it? Because you figure it's not that, I don't know. I gotta just think about that one. But it's something that I do want to do, because I do agree it's a time to kill at times can be a little too abrupt. I mean, what do you guys think, Winter and Duravar?
Sorry, I'm in the
Okay.
chat answering questions. Because we're running over time, so I just wanted to.
I didn't
make sure as
expect
many
certain people
got
to be
answers
talking so much
as
right
they
now,
could.
so I didn't want to be a dick and be like, "Oh, sorry, bye."
It all came like right in the last 5 minutes. Like a bunch of
Yeah.
people started asking.
They nailed us down. We can't
Like,
run now,
shit.
boys.
How do we? God damn it! Honestly, I don't know. I don't really.
You don't have an
much
opinion
of
on
much in. Goddamn English for me today. I'm having a brain aneurysm trying to speak right now. I don't know. It's just I don't have much of a thought
Okay.
on
I
it,
mean,
you know? Yeah.
I'm not really. I'm kind of in the middle where I think it's a good idea and it needs to be explored and potentially play tested. But right now, I say this a lot. I'm very, very keen on not adding so many small things that we basically offset our deadline again. So it's like I'm very conscious of like taking the extensions where they're needed for mission critical things because no one it's nice to have, but it doesn't need to be added this time for the drop system and having a percent based recovery. So it's one of those things where I'm more of like what like the wall builder, a sandbag builder, and all improving those core aspects, getting the replication set up, and then getting the game back to where it was before, so people can play it and appreciate it. And then it's not like we're done. It's the beginning of the story, not the end. So it's one of those things where it's like, to me, you know, and I think there's a misconception or like it's misconstrued sometimes where it's like, oh, like we're done. We're never gonna go back and change it. Like we see the game more like a Stellaris, where it's a constantly evolving behemoth monster or whatever. And part of this rebuilding is just making sure we have a better base or foundation to do it from. So not everything has to be done right now for like some of the stuff that was mentioned right now. Some of this stuff can be done like Zomboid, like Stellaris, 3 years, a year, 2 years, 5 years after the initial game is releasing. You guys have gotten everything we promised. We've gotten everything in the roadmap situated. And then we can start to objectively look at everything you guys have said in these podcasts, online, in reviews, and be like, okay, we can do this now. That should be included in the roadmap. That should be at 1.4. That should be in 1.6. Like world events for 1.4, where it's like plane crashes, helicopter crashes, random dogs attacking you, raiders attack your base that have no affiliation to any group. It's basically just small little events that are like 5, 10, 20-second events that have like, that's a huge thing people have been vocal for. Is like they want more randomness and more unpredictability in the game. And that's something that like was put on the roadmap in 1.4 just because of that, because people were very vocal of what they wanted and what they wanted to see. Because that's a good example of what I'm talking about. So just keep that in mind, is that like, even if I say I can't do something now or do something in this moment, it doesn't mean forever. I used to say civilian evacuation was never going to be in the game. Oh no, it's in the game now. So you figure like I can admit when I'm wrong, and I can admit when things basically do need to alter or change or be manipulated to basically like fit the mold of like different aspects of playing the game, replayability of like other different, I guess you could say, play styles that are outside my normal mold. So, and some of it just comes down to resources, where I just don't want to throw in a bunch of really good ideas in this moment, and I need to space them out over time based off of like, we're 1.5 programmers. Because I do programming, but I also do team management and a bunch of other crap, like marketing and everything. So it's, yeah. It's one of those things. So I'm trying to think. Any other questions before we run and wrap it up for a thingy? Monster Hunter call? Monster Hunter has
Monster Hunter's
beckoned
calling.
me
I'm
to
getting the urge.
destroy them. I must hunt dead monsters.
I must
fucking
try and
hate
knock him
you.
into monster attacks.
Also, just in general, for some of the people who have asked questions who I may not have answered or didn't have an answer for, I do also write these things down, and I will bring some of them to Robert. He'll be like, "What the hell are they talking about?"
Yeah,
Execute them
166. Find them all.
So yeah, so that's actually a really good note there. Yeah, don't be afraid to DM me with questions that haven't been answered. I'm more than happy to take them in and pass them to him.
Yeah.
So feel free. I am friendly. I do not bite much.
Oh, and for
But I
anyone that
did-
does DM me directly, if it takes me a long ass time to reply, it's because like literally Discord added in this new weird system, or if you've never talked to me before, it goes into this section and you don't get notifications. So like I have like a backlog of like a lot of people, and I've been trying to get through them and talk to them on my DMs. So I don't really care if you message me. It's fine. I'm not going to have a fucking heart attack. But just keep in mind that if I don't reply immediately, it's probably because you got like auto-modded my Discord, and it's probably better to tag me in general chat. Because I generally reply back to anyone that just tags me in general chat. Steam forums might take a couple of days, if you're lucky. Maybe like 2 or 3 days, 4 days, sometimes worst case, maybe a week. Discord's typically immediate. Because I'm always on Discord. Like, so if you ever have a question or have a discussion or blah, 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 you're welcome to tag me on Discord. Just don't get too crazy on that. don't tag me every 5 minutes, please. But, yeah. Okay, so then I think we're gonna wrap it up. And I want to say I really appreciate you guys coming to these podcasts, seeing what's being worked on, sharing your opinion, what you like, what you don't like, and just taking the time out of your day. Because like I know you figure it's like, yeah, and we really do appreciate that. And if you do want to support development, check out our Patreon, check out one of the Steam support packs. You can support us now on Discord, Patreon, or YouTube. So the same pledges go across all three now. So like, I guess you can give us supers on YouTube chat. I didn't know that was a thing. So whoever kept doing that on YouTube, I fucking love you. Because I didn't even know that was a thing until you just did it right now. And I was like, oh, I guess that's a thing. So it's one of those things where that's cool. But anyhow, you guys have a great night or morning, and we're gonna eat off or go play some Monster Hunter. I did put a join code on public Discord and general chat yesterday. If anyone wants to join our group and play Monster Hunter with us, they're welcome to join our clan or squad and play with us. Yeah, because we're playing that pretty much every day at nighttime. Like after 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, we either hit up Hill Divers or we hit up. Now we're gonna be hitting up Monster Hunter because I've been playing with the Patreons and I've been playing with some of the general chat people. We were playing on, what was it? The hardest one, Hell Diver. Yeah. What difficulty were we playing on again?
Hell Dive.
The maximum difficulty.
Yeah, we were playing with one Patreon member and a normal guy, and it was you and me, and we were wrecking fucking face. Like, oh my god, we were breaking up in teams of 2 and just rolling the map. It was fun. We actually got to torture Winter and make him play with us.
Yeah, it was blue.
Yeah,
it was air tank and blue.
Winter, we're gonna torture you. You're gonna play with us next time. You can't escape. Anyhow, you guys have a good night. Let's go pop over to the Discord, boys.